So you can put 15 amp receptacles, right, on a 20 amp breaker. How? Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today we're going to be talking about 5 things I get asked a lot, and I want to address them in this video. These are very important for homeowners, for electricians, for anybody who's doing any kind of work. Some of these are going to be my opinions, most of them, obviously, and then some of them are going to be what the code really is. Now let's dive into each one, and let me tell you what this one is. Taping receptacles. Number 2, grounds up or grounds down. Number 3, F-clips in a plastic box. I just had that question. 4, taping wire nut joints. And 5, 15 amp receptacles or 20. Which ones do I prefer and why, and what is the code, blah, blah, blah. So let's dive into the very first one, taping receptacles. Now, let's look at my opinion first. Now, do I tape my receptacles? Absolutely not. All right, I have in the past. I do it more so. I do it. I do it in metal boxes, tight, handy boxes, like I have on my channel now. The ones that I said are the best cut-in boxes. You know, there's a whole playlist of that stuff you can watch. Now, is there a code on taping receptacles? Absolutely not. There's not. Do it at your own discretion. So if you think you need it, okay. Let me rephrase that. Do I think there's anything wrong with it? No, I do not think there's anything wrong with it. I will never fault any person that tapes it as long as they're using electrical tape. Not duct tape, not electrical tape, okay? That's what you got to use. I will never fault anybody for doing that. But do I do it? Absolutely not. And there's no code that says you have to. So I'm not going to do it unless I'm in a metal box. Number 2, grounds up or grounds down. This has been a super crazy debate. So if you go to any Facebook page that I have ever been on, I see this a lot. Well, the grounds have to be up. The grounds have to be down. Grounds have to be up. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong by code. Well, where in the code does it say that? Because there's no code that says that. All right, now, why do people put them up? Let's talk about that. The reason why some people think if they're up, they're safer, because if a paper clip was to fall down and the ground was up, it's going to hit the ground and fall off. Or if it doesn't fall off, it'll go to short out on the hot, or go to the hot or ground and neutral, and nothing will happen. Okay, well, whatever, right? To me, I've never seen that. I'm not saying it can't happen, but anyway, I've never seen a paperclip fall. And if it falls between the hot and neutral, chances are it's going to arc and probably melt or blow the paperclip off. So it should anyway. If not, then something's wrong. But yeah, you probably would never have no issues with that. Code on it? No. Now, having said that, there are some specs in hospitals, in certain places, facilities, that they want the ground up, and then that's when you have to do it. So if you go somewhere and you're seeing, well, you know, I'm in a hospital building, I see all these receptacles up. Well, it's probably with spec, and when they were designing the blueprints, that has to be that way. Is there a code? Nope. So to me, this is what I like. This is what I will always do. Grounds down. So there you go. No code. Number 3, F-clips in a plastic box. So that one got me for a loop, because I thought, why not? You know, so I sat there and I was debating on answering the question, or how to answer the question rather, because I was going to answer. I answer almost all my questions. And I thought, yeah, you can do it. Why not, right? Well, then I thought about it. What if you put the F-clips in a plastic box and the hot slides over and touches the F-clip? Well, now you have a hot F-clip. When I say hot, I mean electrified. So if you were to ground yourself and touch the F-clip somehow, I'm not saying you would, but if you were, you would get shocked on that. So my opinion on that, I don't think there's any code that I know of. If there is, please drop down in the description and let me know. I don't think there's any code that says you can't do it. But from what I just said, I would never do it just for that reason. So the answer is no. No F-clips in a box. Now, I'm not going to look it up in the code book because I feel pretty certain it's probably not in there, because I think I would have saw that over the years. I'm just saying what I said is, to me, I actually wouldn't do it because of that reason. All right, number 4, taping wire nut joints. I absolutely do not do that. I just don't. Is there a code? Nope. Where I work, yep, they want everything taped. from receptacles to everything. If you got a splice on electrical, it's going to have electrical tape on it. So if your work says you need to do it, then you need to do it. I do it there, but I don't do it anywhere else. Plain and simple. No code that says you have to. So in my opinion, I don't do it. Number 5, I'm going to erase all the rest of these because I'm actually going to move this up because this one right here, and I'm not going to say any names, but there are a few people that probably are watching this channel, potentially, who think that, hold on, 15 amp or 20 amp receps. So let me back up and clarify something because this needs to be said. So I said a long time ago on one of my videos that I like the 20 amp receptacles because they're more robust, and that's just what I like to put in. All right, I didn't have a rhyme or reason at that point. Somebody called me out and was trying to argue with me about what I said. And what I found out through Mike Holt, and if you know who that is, then you know. He basically went to the manufacturer, and 15 amp and 20 amp are literally the same thing. The only thing changes in the receptacle is the little divot on the side. All right, that's it. That's it. Now, obviously, if you get a commercial grade, it's higher end, where this one here is just a residential grade, so it's not as high end. But regardless, that's all things changes. All right, I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but just so you know, it's basically the same receptacle. Now, 15 amp or 20 amp receptacles. Now, here's what happens. All right, so I'm on a job right now where I am changing out receptacles, and this house has all 15 amp breakers. All right, it has 14 gauge wire. This homeowner specified to me that they wanted 20 amp receptacles, plain and simple. And I said, okay. I said, well, you can't do it. And they was like, well, I don't care what you can do. I'm paying you to do this. This is what I want. I told them I couldn't do it. So I literally had to walk away from that job. Now, why couldn't I do that? All right, this is the code. It's literally in the code book. You cannot put 20 amp receptacles, all right, on a 15 amp breaker. You just cannot do it. Plain and simple. Now, this is going to be, you're probably going to like, what? When I tell you the next part, because it is crazy. So you can put 15 amp, oh, I thought I had a pen. 15 amp receptacles, right, on a 20 amp breaker. How? How can you do it? Sorry, battery change. So you can put 15 amp receptacles on a 20 amp breaker. Did that make any sense, right? Because I just now told you, you cannot put 20 amp, right, on 14 gauge wire. So let's talk a little bit about this, because this, it might get a little bit lengthy, so just keep this in mind. Listen guys, 20 amps, okay, 20 amps equals 12 gauge wire, okay? 20 amps equals 12 gauge wire. So, or you can say 20 amp breaker equals 12 gauge wire. You cannot put, all right, a 15 amp on 12 gauge wire. You have to keep it on a 14. All right, 20 amp breaker or amps, 15 amp breaker or amps, 14 gauge wire. I know it's kind of like, doesn't make any sense, but follow me. 20 amp, 12 gauge, 15 amp, 14 gauge wire. All right, so how can you put a 20 amp receptacle, we'll change this to recep, on a 15 amp breaker then, when I just literally told you, you can't put a 20 amp on a 15 amp breaker? Well, the code reads this. If you have 2 or more receptacles, you can put them on there. 15 amp on a 20 or a 20 on a 20. But you cannot put a 20 amp receptacle on a 15 amp breaker. But you can put 15 amp or 20 amp receptacles on a 20 amp breaker. So you're going to see it right here. Okay? I'm going to write this down in black and white. All right? If you have a 20 amp circuit, all right, 20 amp circuit, which equals 12 gauge wire. All right? You can put a 15 amp recep or 20 amp recep on there. As you can only use the 20 amps if there's 2 or more receps per code. Does that make sense? Doesn't to me sometimes, but that's the way it is. Now, you can't put on a 15 amp circuit, all right, equals 14 gauge wire, only 15 amp receps. Okay? So now you know. You've heard it here, and that is the gospel. That is in the code book. 20 amp circuit or 20 amp breaker, however you want to look at it. Can use 15 amp receptacles or 20 amp receptacles, as long as there's 2 or more. And usually there will be. 15 amp circuit, which equals 14 gauge wire, only 15 amp receptacles. That's it. I hope that finally clarifies it all. It's the way it is. Do I agree with that? Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird. In your head, it's kind of like, wait, what? But just remember, that's the way it is. I don't know why the code reads like that. And who knows, they may end up changing it. But that's the gospel right there, guys. All right, if you want to see how to cut a boxing wall, I have a video coming up right to the side of me. Definitely check that out, and I will see you guys in that video. Guys, if you like what you see, make sure you like and subscribe. God bless, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.